The Mafia boss laughed when she challenged his 7 best men until she beat them all. The sun is dying over the courtyard when I decide to become someone new. Gold spills across cracked stone. 100 bodies press against the walls, come for blood or spectacle, and tonight they will get both. I stand alone at the edge of the line no one drew but everyone sees. Braids crowned tight against my skull. Dark turtleneck swallowing the last light. Arms crossed like a gate that refuses to open. They call me Via when they dare speak my name at all. Across from me, 7 men. Cesare Valestra's best, his ghosts, his knives. Renzo, neck inked black, a half smile that never touches his eyes. Bruno, shirtless, muscle memory built from every body he's broken. Dante, arms folded, already measuring the angle of my throat. Enzo, fanning red and black cards like a promise of bad luck. Milo, spinning a basketball on one finger, like this is still a game to him. Teo, a ping-pong paddle resting against his thigh like a blade waiting to be won. And Rico, youngest, hungry, vibrating with the need to prove he belongs among wolves. Behind them, half swallowed by shadow, stands the man they answer to. Cesare Valestra, Il Fantasma, the ghost, tall, elegant in black, a thin scar kissing the edge of his jaw like an old apology. When he laughs, it's low and delighted, the sound a cat makes when the mouse finally stops running and turns to fight. He laughed the second I issued the challenge. Beat them all, I said, voice cutting the courtyard like a blade drawn in church. Your 7 best, one after another, or together, I don't care. When the last one falls, you listen to what I came to say. His laugh rolled out slow and rich. The crowd shivered with it. No one talks to Cesare Valestra like that and lives long enough to hear the echo. His men grinned. Enzo shuffled his cards louder. Milo spun the ball faster. Someone behind me whispered that I must be mad, or suicidal, or both. I am neither. 3 weeks ago, they pulled my brother Dario out of the river with the Valestra crest carved into his chest. 3 weeks of doors closing in my face. 3 weeks of police reports that vanished before ink dried. 3 weeks of understanding that the only door left open was the one guarded by 7 men and a monster who found me amusing. So I studied them, the way a surgeon studies a body before the first cut. I know Renzo favors his left. I know Bruno panics past 90 seconds. I know Enzo cheats at everything except pain, and Rico has never killed a woman, which means he'll hesitate half a second too long. Half a second is a lifetime. Cesare gives a small nod. Renzo steps forward first, cracking his neck, rolling his shoulders, expecting me to circle, to talk, to stall. I don't. I move like water finding the lowest point. One strike to the throat, a pivot, an elbow into the soft place beneath his ribs. He's down before the basketball stops spinning. Silence. Bruno comes roaring, and I let him close the distance. Let him believe size wins fights. I use his own momentum. His skull meets stone with a sound the crowd will carry home in their teeth. 2. Cesare's laugh dies somewhere in his throat. I feel it die. I don't look at him yet. I can't afford to. Enzo tries a flourish of cards to distract me. I take the hand holding them and break 3 fingers before he finishes the trick. Teo lasts longer, fast and surgical, but I'm faster, and when he drops, the paddle clatters across the stone like a confession no one asked for. Dante is careful, patient, the one who actually frightens me, and I make him pay for that fear twice. Milo forgets the basketball entirely once his nose is broken, and Rico, sweet, hungry Rico, freezes for exactly half a second when he realizes I am not going to make this easy for him to walk away from. Half a second is a lifetime. By the time the 7th man hits the stone, breathing but broken, the sun has nearly vanished. The crowd isn't restless anymore. They're still. Some afraid. Some already rewriting the story they'll tell tomorrow, sanding down the parts that don't flatter them. Cesare steps forward. He looks at 7 of his best scattered like discarded weapons. He looks at me, chest heaving, a thin cut opened on my cheekbone, someone else's blood smeared across my knuckles. I don't wipe it away. I want him to see exactly what it cost him to underestimate me. Neither of us speaks for a long moment. Then he smiles again. Different this time. Quieter. Hungrier. The smile of a man discovering that the most dangerous thing in his world isn't a rival family or a traitor with a gun. It's a woman who just dismantled the foundation of his power in front of 100 witnesses without raising her voice once. You have my attention, Ottavia Lang. My name leaves his mouth like a secret he's already decided to keep. What do you want? I could ask for my brother's killers. I could ask for money, exile, a clean grave with his name carved backward into it. Instead, I say the only thing that will actually change anything. I want a seat at your table. The courtyard seems to tilt on its axis. I don't know yet that this sentence will cost me more than the fight did. I don't know that the man studying me right now is already deciding that killing me is no longer an option he can afford, and that the alternative might be worse for both of us. Would you have made the same demand, sitting on the wreckage of 7 men, staring down the one who could still end you with a single word? If you're already hooked, a quick subscribe keeps the darkness coming, because Cesare Valestra is about to answer me, and neither of our lives will look the same again. Cesare doesn't answer right away. He crouches instead, next to Renzo, checking his pulse with 2 fingers like a man confirming a debt has been paid, rather than a friend has been hurt. Then he stands, brushes invisible dust from his sleeve, and looks at me the way you look at a weapon you're deciding whether to pick up or step over. A seat at my table, he repeats, tasting the words. Do you understand what you're asking? I understand better than he thinks. I grew up watching my mother count coins at a kitchen table that never had enough chairs. I understand tables. I understand what it costs to sit at one that isn't yours. My brother Dario understood it too, right up until the night he didn't come home, and 3 days later, the river gave him back with the Valestra crest opened into his chest like a signature on a debt he never agreed to owe. The police looked at the crest and looked away. Everyone looks away from Valestra work. I went to 4 different precincts before I stopped pretending the system was going to do anything but file my brother under closed. So, I did what desperate people do when every door shuts. I found the one door nobody dares knock on, and I didn't knock. I broke it down. I understand I have nothing left to lose, I tell him. That makes me either the safest person in this courtyard or the most dangerous one. You get to pick which. Something shifts behind his eyes. Calculation, maybe. Or the beginning of something worse for him. Walk with me, he says. And it isn't a request. His men, the ones still conscious, drag themselves upright and clear a path. I follow him through an iron gate into a private garden behind the estate. Orange trees heavy with fruit no one will pick. A fountain running for no audience but us. It's the first quiet I've had in 3 weeks, and it terrifies me more than the courtyard did. Your brother? Cesare says, not looking at me. Dario Lang. My whole body goes still. You knew him? I knew of him. He picks an orange, turns it in his hand like he's weighing it. He worked the docks, small jobs, the kind of man who thinks he's clever enough to skim off people who notice everything. He wasn't a thief. I didn't say he was. Cesare finally looks at me. I said he was noticed. There's a difference, and it might matter to you more than you'd like. I don't understand what he means yet. I file it away anyway, because I've learned that men like him never say more than they intend to, and everything he says is a door left slightly open. The crest on his chest, I say, your family's mark, carved in. That's not a rumor I got wrong. No. His jaw tightens. It isn't. So you admit your people killed him? I admit someone wanted me to look like I did. He sets the orange down, untouched. I didn't order it, Otavia. I don't waste ink on dock workers. But someone spent considerable effort making sure you'd believe I did. Enough effort that you walked into my courtyard and beat 7 of my best men rather than ask a single question first. Rage and doubt collide in my chest, and for a moment I can't tell which one is winning. I've spent 3 weeks building a fire out of certainty. He's just handed me a reason to doubt the only thing keeping me upright. Prove it, I say. I intend to. He starts walking again, slower this time, letting me catch up instead of trailing him like an animal on a leash. But proving it means bringing you inside my world long enough to see who actually wanted your brother dead and why they wanted you to blame me for it. That isn't a favor I'm offering out of kindness. Then what is it? An investment. His eyes drag over me, unhurried, cataloging. You just proved you're worth more standing beside me than buried by me. I don't often get to watch someone earn that in real time. We reach the edge of the garden, where 2 guards wait with a car already running. My whole life has just folded itself into the space of one conversation. Grief, fury, the ghost of my brother's name, and now a man offering me the truth wrapped around a hook I can already feel setting in my mouth. There are conditions, he says before I can answer. You'll live inside the estate. You'll be watched. Not as a prisoner, but I won't pretend it's different enough to matter to you right now. And you'll learn how this world actually works before you decide who deserves your anger. And if I say no, then you walk out of here with nothing but a story no one will believe, and I never find out who's using my name to start a war. His voice softens by exactly 1 degree. Enough that I notice, and hate that I do. I'd rather not lose either outcome. Come inside, Otavia. Let's find out together who really killed your brother. I think of Dario's face the last time I saw him, laughing too easily at something that wasn't funny. I think of the crest, deep and deliberate, carved by someone who wanted me exactly here, standing in this garden, making exactly this choice. Someone wanted this. I don't yet know who, but I know I can't find them from outside these walls. Fine, I say. I'm in. But the second I think you're lying to me, Cesare Valestra, I go back to doing what I do best. His mouth curves, slow and dangerous. I'm counting on it. We walk to the car together, and behind us, the courtyard empties of blood and witnesses, already becoming a story the city will tell for years. The night the girl beat the 7, and the ghost let her live. The estate swallows the car whole. Gates fold shut behind us with a sound like a held breath finally released. Gravel gives way to marble steps. Marble steps give way to a hallway lined with portraits of Valestra men who all wear the same careful stillness Cesare wears now. The stillness of men who learned early that showing your hand gets you killed. You'll stay in the East Wing, he says, leading me past doors I'm not invited to open. Salvo will assign a detail. A broad-shouldered man steps from a doorway, steel gray at the temples, eyes that have clearly seen worse than a courtyard fight. Salvo Ferretti, he says, not quite a greeting. Underboss. I run security, which means, for now, I run you. I don't need a babysitter. You need one for exactly as long as it takes someone to decide whether you're an asset or a liability. Salvo's gaze flicks to Cesare, unreadable. The boss hasn't decided yet either, for what it's worth. Cesare doesn't correct him. That tells me more than either of their faces do. The room they give me is larger than the apartment I grew up in. High ceilings, a bed that could sleep four, a window overlooking the same garden where Cesare told me my brother might not have died for the reasons I thought. Someone has already hung clothes in the closet, my size exactly, tags still attached. Someone has already decided who I am before I've decided it myself. You went through my things, I say when Cesare appears in the doorway an hour later, like he'd been waiting for me to notice. I went through nothing. I had information gathered. He leans against the frame, unbothered by how that sounds. Height, build, preferences, it's efficient. It's surveillance. It's both. He doesn't apologize, and somehow that's worse than if he had. You should get used to that distinction, Atavia. In my world, care and control wear the same clothes most of the time. I won't insult you by pretending otherwise. I want to hate him for the honesty. I can't quite manage it, and that frightens me more than anything that happened in the courtyard. Where do we start? I ask instead. Finding whoever framed you. We start with dinner. At my look, his mouth twitches, almost a smile. You've been running on adrenaline and grief for 3 weeks. You'll be useless to me, exhausted. Eat, sleep. Tomorrow I introduce you to the people who'll want you dead before they want you dangerous, and you'll need your wits. Dinner is unbearable in a way I didn't expect. Not because the food is bad, but because it's good, and I hate how much I want to enjoy it. Cesare eats across from me in a dining room built for 20, just the two of us, and the sound of silverware against porcelain. He asks about Dario, not the crest, not the river, about who my brother was before he became a crime scene. I find myself answering before I decide to. He used to steal oranges from the corner stall and give them to kids who couldn't afford them, I say. Got caught constantly. Never stopped. Something flickers across Cesare's face. Recognition, maybe, or envy for a kind of stupidity he never got to have. He sounds like someone worth avenging properly, not with a courtyard stunt that could have gotten you killed. It worked, didn't it? It worked because I let it work. His eyes hold mine, steady, daring me to be offended. Don't mistake luck for strategy twice, Atavia. I might not be as generous the second time. I should be furious. Instead, something low and unfamiliar coils in my stomach. Not fear exactly, though fear is threaded through it. Awareness. The specific, dangerous awareness of a man who could end me and hasn't, and seems to be enjoying the wondering more than the certainty would give him. After dinner, Salvo walks me back to the East Wing. Cameras track the hallway at intervals I've counted without meaning to. Old habits from 3 weeks of watching my own back. 2 guards outside my door, one at the garden entrance below my window. I am, whatever Cesare calls it, thoroughly caged. Get some sleep, Salvo says, not unkindly. Tomorrow's harder. Alone, I sit at the window and look down at the garden where a man told me my grief might be pointed at the wrong target. I think about the crest carved into my brother's chest. Precise, deliberate, a message meant to be read by exactly one person. Me. Someone wanted me here, in this house, making this exact bargain with this exact man. I don't know yet whether I've walked into a trap or built myself a weapon. I only know that for the first time in 3 weeks, I'm not the one hunting alone in the dark. And I don't know if that should comfort me or terrify me more than anything that came before it. Engage with the story. Tell me, if the man who might be protecting you is the same man everyone warned you to run from, how far do you follow him before you stop asking why? The call comes at 6 in the morning, and I know before I answer that it's bad. Otavia, my aunt's voice, thin and fast. It's your mother, her heart. The doctors are saying words I don't understand, and the hospital wants money before they'll say more. My mother has been sick for a year, quietly, the way she does everything, refusing to worry me while I chased her son's killers through empty precinct hallways. I never had the money for the treatment she needed. Dario used to say he'd figure it out. Dario isn't here to figure out anything anymore. I'm halfway to the garage before I remember I'm not free to simply leave. Cesare finds me there, arguing with a guard who won't move his car out of my way. One look at my face and he doesn't ask questions, just says, "Get in." And for once, I don't fight him on it. The hospital is exactly as cold and bureaucratic as I remember from Dario. The administrator recites numbers at me like a eulogy. I'm doing the math in my head, the math I've done 100 times, the math that never once comes out in my favor when Cesare steps past me to the counter. "Whatever the account requires," he says, "today, and I want her moved to a private room within the hour." "Sir, I can't just..." "You can." He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. "Tell whoever needs telling that Cesare Valestra is asking, and that I don't ask twice." The administrator's face changes color twice before she picks up the phone. I stand there, furious and grateful in equal measure, hating how easily he solves in 90 seconds what I couldn't solve in a year. "I didn't ask you to do that," I say once we're alone in the hallway. "I know." He studies me, unreadable. "That's precisely why I did it. I don't want to owe you. You don't owe me a debt, Otavia. You owe me nothing you didn't already choose to walk into." His voice gentles, just slightly, just enough that I notice the effort it costs him. "But you should understand something about men like me. We don't help people we intend to discard. Filing that away might save you some confusion later." I don't know what to do with that sentence, so I don't answer it. I go sit with my mother instead, hold her hand while machines hum around her, and try not to think about the fact that the man responsible for her comfort right now is the same man half the city warns women like me to run from. She wakes for a few minutes, squeezes my fingers. "Who's the man in the hallway?" she asks, voice papery. "The one who won't stop watching the door." "Nobody," I lie. "A business associate." Her eyes, tired as they are, still know me too well. "Otavia, be careful with nobodies who look at you like that." I don't have an answer for that either. 3 days later, my mother's stable, I'm standing in a room I was never meant to see, Cesare's private study, where he's meeting with 2 men from a shipping consortium who clearly expected this to be a conversation between equals until I walked in beside him instead of behind him. "Miss Lang will be sitting in," Cesare says, before either man can object. "Consider it a demonstration." I don't fully understand the negotiation. Tariffs, ports, arrivals interference in a supply line. But I understand men, and I understand that these 2 are lying about something the moment their eyes stop meeting Cesare's. I lean over and murmur it to him, quiet enough that only he hears. The younger one keeps touching his watch when he mentions the second warehouse. He's nervous about it. There's something there he doesn't want you looking at. Cesare's gaze sharpens. He redirects the conversation without missing a beat, circles back to the second warehouse from an angle they didn't prepare for, and watches the younger man's composure crack in real time. 15 minutes later, they leave with considerably less leverage than they arrived with. "You have good instincts," Cesare says once we're alone, something like admiration threaded through the words. "I've spent my life reading men who might hurt me. It's not a skill I'm proud of." It should be. It's the only reason you're still breathing after that courtyard. He studies me a moment longer than necessary. Salvo tells me people are already talking about you, the woman who beat the 7 and now sits in my meetings. Some find it fascinating, others find it a threat. Which are you? Increasingly, he says, voice low, I find it difficult to categorize. I feel that sentence lands somewhere I don't want it to, somewhere unguarded. I think of my mother's warning. Be careful with nobodies who look at you like that. And I understand, with a sinking certainty, that it's already too late for careful. Somewhere outside these walls, someone framed Cesare Valestra for my brother's murder and gambled that grief would make me reckless enough to walk straight into this house. They were right about the recklessness. They didn't account for what might grow here once I arrived. It happens in the library, of all places, 3 weeks into a life I never planned to live. I'm reading through shipping manifests Cesare left for me. A test, I suspect, though he'd never call it that, when he appears in the doorway with 2 glasses and a bottle he doesn't bother to name. You've been in here since noon, he says. Even ghosts eat. I'm close to something. I tap the page. The second warehouse. It doesn't belong to the consortium at all. It's leased through a shell that traces back to Marchetti. His whole body changes at the name. Aurelio Marchetti. You know him. I know he spent 2 years trying to take territory my father held for 30. I know he's patient in a way that should worry me more than it does. Cesare sets the glasses down, closer to me than the table requires. If he's behind the warehouse, he could be behind considerably more. Including my brother. Including your brother. He says it quietly, like he's been circling this conclusion for days and finally has to say it out loud. A dock worker who noticed something he shouldn't have. A crest carved into his chest to make sure you'd come straight to me instead of asking questions first. It's an elegant piece of work, Ottavia. Cruel and elegant. Rage moves through me, familiar now, almost comfortable. He used my grief as a weapon. He used you as a knife aimed at my throat. Cesare's jaw tightens. And I very nearly let you plunge it in without ever knowing whose hand was really on the hilt. We're standing close enough now that I can see the exact place his scar catches the lamplight. Close enough that the air between us stops behaving like air. Why does it matter to you? I ask, and I mean it as a real question, not a challenge. Whether I plunged it in or not, you could have let me. It would have been simpler. Simpler isn't the same as acceptable. His voice drops, rough at the edges. I've spent 3 weeks watching you dismantle every assumption I had about what danger looks like. I don't know what to call what that's done to me, but I know I'm no longer interested in the simple outcome. That's not an answer. No, he agrees. It isn't. He reaches up, slow enough that I could stop him, and brushes a loose braid back from my face. It's such a small thing. It shouldn't undo me the way it does. Tell me to stop, he says, and I will. I don't tell him to stop. His mouth finds mine like he's been rehearsing restraint for weeks and finally set it down. It isn't gentle, not entirely. There's hunger under the care, a current he's clearly been fighting since the courtyard. But it isn't cruel either. My hands find the front of his shirt, meaning to push him back, and instead I pull him closer, some traitorous part of me finally admitting what the rest of me has been pretending not to feel since he crouched over Renzo's body and looked at me like I was the most dangerous thing he'd ever wanted. When we break apart, we're both breathing like the courtyard duel all over again. That was a mistake, I say, because someone has to say it even if neither of us believes it. Was it? His thumb traces the cut healing along my cheekbone, gentler than a man like him should know how to be. Tell me that again when you mean it. I can't. That's the problem. I turn and leave the library instead, because staying feels like a decision I'm not ready to survive the consequences of. Not with Marchetti's shadow stretched over both our lives, not with my brother's death still unresolved, not with the particular vertigo of wanting a man everyone warned me was the monster in this story. Salvo finds me in the hallway, and if he notices my flushed face or unsteady hands, he's professional enough not to mention it. "Boss wants extra security on you starting tonight," he says instead. "Word's out that you've been asking questions about Marchetti's shipping routes. That kind of curiosity gets noticed fast in this business." How fast? Fast enough that I'd stay close to the house for a few days. His eyes are kind, in the careful way of a man who's buried people he cared about. "You're not just Via Lang who beat the 7 anymore. You're Via Lang who might be sleeping with the boss. Both of those get you killed for different reasons." I don't correct the word sleeping, even though it isn't accurate yet. Somewhere behind me, in the library, is a man I came here to use as a weapon against my brother's killer. And instead, I'm standing in a hallway with my pulse still racing from his mouth, understanding for the first time exactly how dangerous this version of the story has become. Not because of Marchetti, because of what I'm starting to want. 2 days pass before Cesare and I speak again about anything that isn't Marchetti. I keep my distance, or try to. The estate is large, but not large enough to avoid a man who owns every hallway in it. On the 3rd night, he finds me on the terrace overlooking the garden where this entire arrangement started, and instead of reaching for me, he sits beside me and says nothing for a long time. "My father built this house on a debt he never repaid," he says finally. "You should know that about me before you decide what I am." I don't answer, but I don't leave either. He was called Il Fantasma before I was. The ghost. Not because he was elegant or elusive, because he made people disappear so completely there was nothing left to bury. I inherited the name along with the empire, and for a long time I thought I'd inherited the method too. He looks at his hands like he's checking them for something. "I was 17 when he first made me watch." "Watch what?" "A man who'd crossed him. My father didn't just want obedience, he wanted witnesses. He said fear you build secondhand doesn't last." Cesare's voice stays level, but something underneath it isn't. "I've spent 18 years trying to run this family without becoming him. Some days I succeed. The courtyard wasn't one of those days, if I'm honest. I let 7 men fight a woman because I wanted to see what she was made of, and I told myself that was strategy instead of cruelty. You could have stopped it at any point." "I could have. I didn't want to." He finally looks at me. "That should frighten you more than anything Marchetti's done." It does, a little. It doesn't change what's sitting in my chest, stubborn and unreasonable. "Tell me about Marchetti," I say instead, because I need somewhere safer to put my attention. Really tell me. Not the shipping routes, the history. Cesare exhales, long and slow. "Aurelio Marchetti's father and mine ran this territory together once, before a dispute over docking rights turned into a war that killed 11 men in a single summer. My father won. Marchetti's father died believing my family cheated him out of what was rightfully his, and Aurelio inherited both the grudge and the conviction. And my brother worked the docks Marchetti's father used to control. Yes." Cesare's jaw tightens again, the way it does whenever this particular thread pulls taut. "I had Salvo dig deeper this week. Your brother wasn't skimming from anyone, Ottavia. He found ledgers proving Marchetti's been smuggling through my territory for 2 years, disguised as legitimate cargo. He didn't understand what he'd found. He mentioned it to the wrong person at the wrong bar, and word reached Marchetti within days." The room tilts the way the courtyard did the night I made my demand. He killed Dario because he found evidence and carved your crest into him so you'd destroy me for him, cleanly, without Marchetti spending a single soldier or a single bullet. Cesare's voice goes quiet, almost gentle, which somehow makes it worse. He built a weapon out of your grief and aimed it directly at my throat. It very nearly worked. I think of the courtyard, of my own certainty, iron-hard and righteous, walking me straight into a trap disguised as vengeance. I think of how close I came to spending my fury on the wrong man entirely, while the right one built ledgers and alibis somewhere safe. I want him, I say, and my voice doesn't shake. I want to be there when it happens. You will be. Cesare takes my hand, the first time he's touched me since the library, and doesn't let go. But Marchetti knows we're closing in. That makes the next move his, not ours, and he won't make it clean. Somewhere past the garden wall, in a house I've never seen, a man is deciding how to finish what he started. A war built entirely on my grief, my brother's curiosity, and a crest carved deep enough to make me hate the wrong ghost. I look at Cesare, scarred jaw and careful hands, and 18 years of trying not to become his father, and understand that whatever happens next, I'm no longer separable from this house, this war, or this man. Engage with the story. Which of them do you think is more dangerous? The man who spent his whole life fighting not to become a monster, or the one who's finally stopped fighting it at all? Marchetti's move comes 4 nights later, and it isn't the bullet I braced for. It's Rico. I find him in the garden past midnight, sitting on the fountain's edge, staring at his hands like they belong to someone else. He was the youngest of the 7, the one who hesitated half a second too long in the courtyard, the one I half expected to hate me for it ever since. Can't sleep either? He asks, not looking up. Something like that. I sit, keeping distance between us out of old habit. You've been avoiding me since the fight. I've been ashamed since the fight. His laugh is short, bitter. 7 of us, and you took everyone. I keep replaying it, trying to figure out where I could have been faster. You couldn't have been. I say it plainly because it's true. I studied all of you for weeks before I ever stepped into that courtyard. You didn't lose to bad luck. You lost to preparation. He finally looks at me, something raw in his face. Marchetti's people found me last week, offered money to walk away from the estate during the next security rotation. Just walk away, they said. No one gets hurt if I'm not standing where I'm supposed to be. My whole body goes cold. Did you take it? No. His voice cracks on the word. But they made it clear what happens to my sister if I say no twice. I think of my own mother, machines humming around her, Cesare's money the only thing keeping her breathing. I understand exactly what kind of leverage Rico is describing, because I nearly became someone's leverage myself, 3 weeks and a lifetime ago. We tell Cesare, I say, tonight. He'll kill me for even being approached. He won't. I say it with more certainty than I feel, but I believe it enough to keep going. He'll protect your sister, and he'll use what you know to hurt Marchetti worse than either of us could alone. That's who he actually is, underneath everything you've heard. Rico searches my face like he's trying to decide whether hope is a luxury he can afford. Eventually he nods. Cesare doesn't kill him. He listens, jaw tight, hands very still on the desk, and when Rico finishes, he says only, "Your sister will have protection by morning. You did the right thing telling us." Rico's shoulders drop 3 inches, like he's been carrying the weight since the offer was made. But the information changes everything. Marchetti isn't just probing from outside anymore. He's reaching inside the house, testing every seam for weakness. Salvo doubles the guard rotation. Cesare cancels 3 meetings I don't get details on. The estate, which felt merely watchful before, starts to feel like it's holding its breath. He's accelerating, Cesare tells me that night, spreading a map of the docks across his desk. Which means he's planning something bigger than another approach through my men. Something final. How final? Final enough that he's willing to burn the shipping routes he's spent 2 years protecting. His finger taps a warehouse marked in red, the same one from the ledgers Dario found. If he's willing to lose that, he's not planning to negotiate anymore. He's planning to end this in one move. Fear moves through me, colder than anything the courtyard produced. Not fear for myself. I made peace with that risk the night I issued my challenge. Fear for the man standing across the desk from me, who spent 18 years fighting not to become his father, and who might not survive discovering he doesn't have to become anything at all to lose everything. Then we move first, I say. Cesare looks up, and for a moment the careful control slips, just enough that I see what's underneath it. Not the ghost, not Il Fantasma, just a man afraid of losing something he only recently let himself want. If we move first, he says quietly, you're standing in the middle of it. I need you to understand that before you agree to anything. I think of Dario, laughing too easily, stealing oranges for kids who couldn't afford them, gone because he found a truth someone else needed buried. I think of my mother, alive because of a man everyone warned me to fear. I think of Rico, choosing loyalty over survival because someone finally gave him a reason to. I've been in the middle of it since the courtyard, I say. I'm not stepping out now. Cesare studies me for a long moment, then nods once, like a man closing a door he can't afford to leave open any longer. Then let's finish this properly, he says, before Marchetti decides the ending for both of us. The plan takes shape over 3 days, and I insist on being inside every part of it, not standing safely outside its edges. You don't have to prove anything else, Cesare tells me, watching me study the warehouse layout for the 4th time that afternoon. You've already proven more than most men who've served me for a decade. This isn't about proving anything. I trace the loading dock's second exit, the one Dario's ledgers first flagged. This is about finishing what my brother started, whether either of you likes it or not. Something in his expression softens. Not doubt, exactly, but a kind of recognition. You sound like me at your age, before I learned that certainty gets people killed as often as it saves them. Then teach me the difference. He does, in the days that follow. Not lessons exactly, but a slow unspooling of how he actually thinks, how he weighs risk against reward, how he reads a room the way I read the 7 before the courtyard. I watch him with his men and understand, for the first time, that the control everyone fears isn't cruelty. It's exhaustion, carefully hidden. The weight of holding an empire together, so no one beneath him has to bleed for his mistakes. Why haven't you married? I ask one night, half joking, watching him review Marchetti's shipping manifests for the 100th time. Surely half the city's been offering. Half the city offers because they want the empire, not the man. He doesn't look up from the papers. I stopped being interested in that particular transaction a long time ago. And now? He does look up then, and whatever he sees in my face makes something in his own expression finally stop guarding itself. Now I've met someone who beat 7 of my best men and demanded a seat at my table instead of a ring on her finger. It's rearranged my priorities considerably. I laugh before I mean to. A real laugh, startled out of me, The first one since Dario died. Cesare watches it happen like he's witnessing something rare. Don't, I warn him, though I don't mean it. Don't look at me like that in the middle of a war. I'll look at you however I want, Ottavia. It's the one freedom Marchetti hasn't taken from me yet. He sets the papers down, crosses the space between us, and this time neither of us pretends it's a mistake. His hand finds my jaw, careful, deliberate. I should have told you sooner. I don't intend to let anything happen to you in that warehouse. You can't promise that. No, he admits, forehead resting against mine, voice rough with something that isn't just desire. But I can promise I'll be standing between you and whatever tries. The kiss that follows isn't hesitant like the library, isn't hunger barely restrained. It's certainty, the kind that comes after both people stop pretending they're going to walk away from this. When he pulls back, his eyes are dark and steady on mine. Stay tonight, he says. Not because I'm asking you to prove anything, because I don't want to spend the hours before Marchetti's endgame anywhere but next to you. I do stay, and what happens between us afterward isn't the fight, isn't the war, isn't Marchetti or Dario or any ghost either of us is carrying. It's quiet and slow and more honest than either of us has been in weeks. His hands finding the places the courtyard bruised, mine finding the scar along his jaw, both of us choosing deliberately to be something other than weapons for a few stolen hours. In the morning, Salvo's knock comes too early, the way bad news always does. Marchetti's men were spotted moving toward the warehouse district an hour ago, he says through the door, voice tight. Boss, it's happening tonight. Cesare's arm tightens around me for one brief, unguarded second before the ghost settles back over his features, careful and controlled. But I felt that second. I know now, with total certainty, that whatever else this war costs either of us, it will not cost us the truth of what we've become to each other. Get dressed, he says quietly. It's time to finish this. I do. And for the first time since the river gave my brother back to me, I walk toward danger not alone, but beside someone who has just as much to lose as I do. The warehouse smells like salt water and diesel, same as it did the night Dario found ledgers he was never meant to see. Cesare's men take position in the shadows between shipping containers, silent and precise. Salvo stays close to me, though we both know I didn't come here to hide behind anyone. Rico is stationed at the second exit, the one his own information helped us map. His sister safe across the city, guarded by two men Cesare trusts with his life. Marchetti arrives 20 minutes later with a dozen soldiers, and a confidence that tells me he doesn't yet know we've read his plan from the first page. Cesare Valestra. His voice carries across the concrete, amused and unhurried. And the girl who beat the 7? I confess I didn't expect you to survive this long, Ottavia. My condolences on your brother, by the way. Curiosity really is a fatal habit on the docks. The confirmation lands like a blow anyway, even though I've known for days. You killed him for finding your ledgers. I killed him for being careless enough to mention them at a bar where my people drink. Marchetti shrugs, unbothered. And I carved a message into him because I needed you angry enough to do exactly what you did. Walk into Cesare's territory and start a war for me, free of charge. You performed beautifully, for what it's worth. She performed for herself, Cesare says, voice cold as the water outside. You miscalculated the moment you assumed grief makes people stupid instead of precise. Marchetti's smile thins. Precise didn't save your brother, Ottavia. Let's see if it saves you. The first shot comes from behind a container to my left. Not Marchetti's men firing on command, but a trap already set before the conversation began. Cesare's arm sweeps me down behind a stack of crates as the warehouse erupts into gunfire and shouting, exactly the chaos I trained for in a different life, in a courtyard 3 weeks that feel like 3 years ago. I don't freeze. I move. Years of watching my own back on the way to police stations that never listened taught me how to read a fight before it fully forms. I see the angle Marchetti's second man is favoring and put him down before he clears his weapon. I see Bruno, my old opponent, now fighting beside me instead of against me, take a hit meant for Rico and keep swinging anyway. Across the warehouse, Cesare and Marchetti find each other in the chaos, and for a moment the entire fight seems to narrow down to just the two of them. 18 years of buried war finally surfacing in real time. Marchetti fights dirty, fast, desperate now that his plan has visibly failed. Cesare fights like a man with something worth surviving for, which turns out to be the difference that matters. I reach them as Marchetti goes for a blade hidden at his back. The same kind of blade, I realize with cold fury, that carved my brother's chest into a message. I don't think. I move, the way I moved in the courtyard, water finding the lowest point, and put myself between the blade and the only person left in this city I refuse to lose. The knife catches my forearm instead of Cesare's ribs. It burns, distant and unimportant, while Cesare disarms Marchetti with a brutal economy of motion that ends with the man face down on warehouse concrete, Salvo's boot between his shoulder blades. It's over, Cesare says, breathing hard, eyes finding my bleeding arm with a fear more naked than anything I've seen on his face since this began. Ottavia, I'm fine. I am. Barely, but I am. Dario's fine too now, whatever that means. Marchetti is taken alive. Cesare's choice, not mercy but strategy. Evidence enough to end him properly through channels that will make the story stick this time. No crest required to convince anyone of anything. By the time the sun comes up over the docks, the war that started with my brother's body in the river ends with Marchetti in custody, and a truth finally cleared of every lie built to hide it. Weeks later, healed and steady, I stand in the same courtyard where this all began. Quieter now, sunlight instead of dying gold, no crowd waiting for blood. Cesare finds me there, the way he always seems to, like the space has learned to expect us both. Any regrets? He asks, threading his fingers through mine. I think of Dario, avenged properly instead of used as a weapon by someone else's cruelty. I think of my mother, healthy again, meeting the man she once called nobody with a knowing look neither of us has managed to explain away yet. I think of Rico's sister, safe, of Bruno, no longer an opponent, of a seat at a table I once demanded out of fury and now hold out of something entirely different. None, I say. Ask me again in 20 years. Cesare Valestra, Il Fantasma, the ghost who inherited an empire built on silence, smiles the way he did that first night, quiet and hungry and entirely mine. I intend to, he says, and kisses me in the same courtyard where I once beat 7 men to earn the right to ask him a single question. The empire is still his, but the table, finally, belongs to both of us. Engage with the story. If Ottavia's fight for the truth kept you on the edge of your seat, tell me, which moment hit hardest? The courtyard, the warehouse, or the confession in the library? I read every comment. Thank you for staying with Ottavia and Cesare until the very last page of their story. If this world pulled you in, the courtyard, the warehouse, the quiet moments in between where 2 dangerous people finally let their guard down, the darkness doesn't stop here. New stories drop regularly, each one its own complete descent into obsession, danger, and the kind of love that isn't supposed to survive the people caught inside it. Subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you in the next one.